We've had a couple days now of Tim Walz. We've had more than enough of JD Vance. What do the people think about these candidates? Well, we are getting an idea of that. More voters, shockingly, view Walz favorably than unfavorably. Overall, 35% of registered voters expressed a favorable opinion of him, compared to 20% who have at least a somewhat unfavorable opinion of the governor. There's obviously gonna be some of that because Republicans see the D before his name or whatever. Now, bear in mind, that means that there are still many Americans that don't really have a feeling for him. They don't know him well enough, which is totally understandable. There's no real reason why most of you would have known who he was a couple of weeks ago. But as they find out more, we'll see which number goes up. I have a theory, but that remains to be seen. According to a poll conducted in late July, at that point, 3 out of 4 registered voters didn't know who he was. Now that number has dropped about that's 1/3 of those who didn't know who he was now do after the announcement. So that's fast. His favorability jumped 14% after the announcement. 62% of Democratic voters have a positive view of him. Just 5% have a negative view. So there are not a lot of Democrats who don't like this guy. And by the way, amongst all voters, 16% of those identifying as very conservative have a positive view of him. Again, I think that's sort of his overall vibe, but also if they know him well, then there are things about him that they should like. He's a fan of guns or whatever. He likes to get his hands dirty and all that. The sorts of things that stereotypically they're supposed to like. Well, a lot of people are apparently liking what they're seeing and are enthused by what they're seeing, because in the very limited time since Harris announced the Walz pick, the Democrats have raised $41 million, which is a shocking amount of money. And so you have the money coming in, you have his favorability coming in, moving up. And that's after just, today's Thursday, 2 days. We are 2 days into this thing and his numbers are already shooting up. 14% after the announcement. For contrast, Vance's favorability in a 1 week period after he was announced dropped by 9 points. And so this is an opportunity right after you've been picked for people to learn who you are. And I would make the case they've done that in both of these examples. They've learned about Walz and there's a lot there to like. They've learned about Vance and you've seen there ain't much there, not there that would generate a lot of favorable feelings or whatever.
A storm is tearing up the digital media industry. Only our audience can save us in these difficult times. Help us reach our goal of 100,000 new members at tyt.com/team.
But that said, I want to demonstrate it a little bit more effectively with a case study that doesn't just make Vance look bad, but makes the Trump campaign look truly vile. So we have that for you. JD Vance sort of, I guess, randomly had his plane that he was going to be on be at the same airport as the plane for the Harris campaign. And so he decided he's going to try to generate some sort of viral moment. And so he awkwardly walked over the plane like a goon and eventually had to retreat from it after trying to make a moment of it or whatever. And so he told campaign reporters, "I just wanted to check out my future plane," which is weirdly entitled, but whatever. Some people might read that as confidence. Maybe some people might like that. He didn't get the chance to face Harris because she was, at a rally with way more people at it than his. And so she was busy, but said that he, quote, wanted to go say hello to the vice president and ask her, why does she refuse to answer questions? She's not doing enough appearances. She's certainly not sitting down for interviews with potentially hostile journalists. Not like Trump, who constantly is putting himself in front of the firing squad or whatever. The dude calls into Fox and Friends and you're gonna try to point out that Harris doesn't do enough. She just announced. Now look, if she goes the next 90 days and doesn't do any interviews, then I will agree with him that that looks bad. I don't think it just looks bad, although it does. I think that that is doing a disservice to your potential voters. They want to hear from you. It's also a waste of opportunities. You should be out there and doing these interviews because they can draw a lot of eyes. I would do one soon. Now, that's not to say that she's not doing anything. She's doing a 7 battleground state tour right now over the next week. They're doing tons of events and drawing a lot of people. And I'm glad. I don't want them to stop doing that. But that said, interviews would also be good. And Skittlebutt asks, with who? Fox, CNN, Newsmax? Well, I would say not Newsmax, but do the CNN interview, go on The View, but also, yes, do Fox. As people have pointed out, Pete Buttigieg does it, comports himself really well. Obama used to go on Fox. Now, depending on how they treat you, you maybe only do it the one time or whatever, but I don't think it's the worst idea. So I think it's premature. It makes him look weird and entitled. And coming out of this moment where he just tried to generate a little bit of buzz around himself because he was stalking her plane, this is how the Harris campaign responded.
Now I want to sit back and relax and enjoy my evening. When all of a sudden I hear this agitating, grating voice.
Just really seems to fit when it comes to him. But I want to be clear, this is not why I decided to do this story. The Vance stuff by itself, the response is good, I like it. But here is why I wanted to do this story. It's what the Trump campaign said in response to it. So he puts out a tweet, I don't really care what he said. Steven Cheung, a spokesperson for the Trump campaign, responds with, make sure Air Force 2 is deep cleaned because Lord only knows what Kamala Harris and her team have done on there. The smell alone on that plane must be crazy. Give you a second to just absorb all of that. Again, I try not to assume that any of you are more online than you need to be. You might be wondering, wait, is this like a reference to something? Is this like the couch thing? Is there like a meme going around of Harris smelling or something? Nope, there's no meme or anything. There's just, I guess, our culture and Steven Cheung's understanding of it. He thinks that he can make a baseless claim that Harris smells for some reason that he's not defining. And he assumes that right wingers will like that for some reason that he's not defining. Now, are there some people out there on the right that will like that? I think so. I know why as well. Blatant racism, that's the only potential explanation. Now he's gonna try to backtrack and retreat, and we're gonna give you that. So he declined to comment on whether his post plays into racial stereotypes, but don't worry, he doesn't need to because it does. But he reminded the Daily Beast that he's a minority himself. He's Asian American, born to parents who immigrated from China. So if any of you were worried that he was spreading racial stereotypes, either of her as a black woman or of her as a South Asian woman, if it's getting into stereotypes of Indians or Indian Americans or something, don't worry. He is doing that, but he's doing that as an Asian American, so I guess it's not as bad. By the way, it is hardly novel on the right to use your demographic characteristics as a weapon to attack other people with those same characteristics. You didn't come up with that, Steven Cheung, by the way. You're at the end of a long line of grifters and a-holes. But here is what he says. Here's his explanation of why he said that. After 4 years of use crisscrossing the globe, you'd think a deep clean would be customary for any new administration. Dude, just admit what you're doing. That means literally nothing. That is just diarrhea dripping out of your mouth. It was racist. That's what it was. You're saying that either because she's Indian or either because she's black, she smells. Those people black or those people smell. They're others. You don't have to take them seriously. You get to just openly mock them. That's what you're doing. It's sad and pathetic. It's a weird job that you've gotten for yourself, but that's what it was.